For TCM students and practitioners alike, one of the challenges encountered in clinic is determining the most appropriate formula to use for a specific diagnosis. On one hand, you may have an accurate diagnosis, but don't recall the most appropriate formula, as so many formulas share common ingredients or treat similar indications. On the other hand, a common mistake is to choose a formula by focusing on its main ingredients or the symptoms addressed by the formula, rather than understanding the formula's connection with a diagnosis through a proper diagnosis process. For example, you have a patient who caught a cold and complains of coughing. Inexperienced students and practitioners may jump straight to prescribing exterior-releasing formulas that contain the herb xingren, since its main function is to stop cough. However, both Xing Su San and Sang Xing Tang formulas contain xingren, so which formula would be the most appropriate without a lot of guessing or looking up individual formula functions? Through a proper diagnosis process, you should look for other key symptoms to identify a pattern. If the patient in our example is experiencing predominantly dry symptoms, such as dry cough, dry throat, dry nose, then the diagnosis is wind dryness, and we can use the app to find that the formula Sang Xing Tang is most appropriate. If the patient doesn't have pronounced dryness or much heat signs, then the diagnosis is wind cold, and the app tells us that the formula Xing Su San is more appropriate. Aside from browsing diagnosis by categories or searching by diagnosis name, the app also lets us search for a diagnosis by its manifestations. If a patient complains of feeling of heat and hearing loss, we can quickly search and identify the diagnosis as small intestine excess heat. We can also search by formula to check which diagnosis it treats. For example, searching for Chai Hu Shu Gan San returns the 3 diagnoses that it most appropriately treats. The Diagnosis Guide app enables us to learn and validate relationships between specific diagnosis, manifestations, and appropriate formulas for treatment.